Scaling an enterprise engineering organization reveals a recurring failure point, the gap between high-level business objectives and ground-level code execution. Implementing isolated testing phases often fails to bridge this divide. While a checkpoint might catch localized errors, it cannot align the underlying system architecture with the company's goals. True enterprise quality operates as an unbroken top-down causal loop. This 15-node blueprint maps that pathway, starting at the business vision, routing through a complex execution cluster, and returning to the start. Maintaining this loop requires the precise mapping of three elements: strategic governance, technical execution, and organizational maturity. Tracing this 15-stage flow reveals how foundational strategy descends into technical deployment and generates the data required for leadership to evolve. This framework is designed specifically for the requirements of modern microservice and cloud topologies. Treating quality as a continuous architectural feedback loop prevents the strategic drift that occurs when it is handled as a separate technical hurdle. The operational engine begins at the highest organizational level. The business vision dictates the parameters of the quality engineering strategy. These high-level economic goals set the constraints for every subsequent engineering decision. In this model, strategy is an unavoidable derivative of business goals. It serves the vision, not an independent technical preference. The strategy then descends into the enterprise quality architecture, which structures these goals into a technical framework before reaching quality governance. This architecture tier provides the structural blueprint that governance must then enforce. Governance acts as the translation layer. It converts abstract architectural concepts into the concrete, enforceable rules that guide development teams. The automation architecture serves as the foundational floor that catches and supports this downward strategic flow. Without this heavy governance layer resting above it, automation initiatives often collapse under the weight of technical debt and lack of direction. Technical processes that lack this strategic cascade become disconnected from the company's baseline economic objectives. As the strategy reaches the automation floor, it immediately shifts into the horizontal reality of operational execution. The primary artery of this phase is the CI/CD pipeline, reinforced by specific quality gates. This mechanism is responsible for blocking code that violates the governance mandates established in the previous phase. Modern delivery requires the integration of AI, cloud, security, and DevSecOps modules directly into the pipeline. Embedding DevSecOps into the continuous flow ensures that security is a constant variable in the execution engine, rather than a final, isolated review. A monitoring tier consisting of performance, reliability, and observability modules clamps onto the pipeline to scan the system throughput in real time. Running observability across the entire execution engine is necessary to prevent localized blind spots that harbor systemic risks. Stacking these specific architectural integrations establishes the CI/CD pipeline as an impenetrable quality enforcer. Code that clears the execution pipeline arrives at the final deployment target. In environments built on microservices and APIs, contract testing creates the necessary boundaries between services. These contracts serve as a proactive defense, preventing the cascading integration failures common in distributed systems. However, even with rigorous controls, complex environments eventually face unpredictable systemic shocks. Resilience is maintained through specialized countermeasures: chaos engineering, incident response, and disaster recovery. Chaos engineering proves systemic resilience by subjecting the architecture to intentional, controlled stress. This defensive perimeter is finalized by formalized incident response and disaster recovery protocols. System resilience at enterprise scale must be aggressively and mathematically proven through these intentional disruptions. Once the infrastructure is stable, the focus moves immediately toward the extraction of actionable intelligence from the system. Data streams from observability and chaos engineering pool into a central hub of metrics and KPIs. Technical hardware provides no strategic value unless it reliably outputs these specific, quantitative performance indicators. However, raw metrics require a dedicated human structure to process and interpret them for the organization. This data flows upward into the Center of Excellence, or COE, the organizational engine responsible for processing technical reality into strategy. The COE analyzes operational bottlenecks and technical failures to formulate updated best practices for the entire firm. Refined knowledge scales through the organization via mentoring and internal thought leadership. This elevation of the engineering culture ensures that the organization's collective knowledge keeps pace with its technical capabilities. A culture of high-level mentoring and leadership provides the maturity required for navigating continuous innovation with emerging AI. Without this human layer, the organization lacks the expertise to integrate such complex technologies into the loop. This innovation routes directly back to the starting point, altering the original business vision and completing the architectural circuit. Human organizational structures are the mechanism that turns static operational metrics into continuous systemic evolution. Evaluating the completed 15-node architectural topology reveals a self-sustaining system. Success depends on 3 interdependent zones: the strategy at the top, the execution at the bottom, and the culture providing the return path. A break in any single link of this chain causes immediate organizational gridlock and the accumulation of technical debt. Stability is maintained by the relentless downward pressure of the strategic cascade. Velocity is achieved through the rigorous, automated enforcement of the execution pipeline. Adaptability is driven by the upward lift of a heavily mentored engineering culture. The ultimate outcome of a mature quality engineering strategy is the architecture of a self-optimizing organizational engine.